Let's bring in Tara Mahler, a former CIA military analyst. She's now a spokeswoman and senior policy advisor for the Counter Extremism Project, a nonprofit that tracks and combats extremist groups. Tara, this offer to hold some talks between North Korea and South Korea, what do you make of it?
I think that the United States should take it seriously. I think it should encourage any form of diplomacy that the North Koreans are willing to engage in. That is not at the expense of increasing punitive measures like sanctions. That is not at the expense of putting pressure on North Korea, but you want both simultaneously. You want to increase and ramp up pressure on North Korea like we've been doing, and you want to be open to diplomacy, negotiations, and talks. Talks in and of themselves are not appeasement. Talks are the only way you're going to ever reach a peaceful solution and avert conflict, in this case, potential nuclear conflict.
Yeah, but some observers are saying that Kim Jong-un is trying to drive a wedge between the U.S. and its allies in the region by offering to hold these talks with the South.
That might be true. Having said that, it doesn't mean that these talks, these bilateral talks, can't open the door for more multilateral diplomacy down the line. The South Koreans are probably more than willing to engage us on this matter. And the South Koreans, have an interest in resolving this as well. They don't want to see a conflict on the peninsula. They have been helpful in terms of, ramping up the pressure on North Korea and also keeping the door open. I think you're right. I think it was a move by North Korea to try to undercut the administration's sort of rhetoric that's been opposed to diplomacy. But you saw Sarah Sanders earlier today at the press podium didn't sort of come out so directly against it. And Trump's tweet earlier today, President Trump's tweet, also sort of left the door somewhat open as to whether or not these talks could be productive. Again, I'm not saying it's going to yield a magical solution overnight. I just think that in order to get to any solution or even to get a temporary thaw in an escalating crisis, you need to get parties to the table.
Yeah, just about everybody says that a solution to the North Korea problem has to go through China. President Trump was glowing in his praise of China in the early months of his administration, but some of that seems to have soured lately. Is he putting pressure on the Chinese to put more pressure on North Korea?
Well, I think what you saw, Ambassador Haley did a great job in getting multilateral sanctions ramped up on North Korea. You had President Trump doing a good job in terms of getting the Chinese to ramp up their pressure, but I think he may have been a little bit overly optimistic in how far the Chinese were going to go. Putting sanctions and putting words down, in theory, you really need to wait to see the implementation. And I think the Chinese could be doing more. Having said that, again, you can keep ramping up economic pressure and sanctions, but at the end of the day, a solution to this is going to still need to get parties to the table to reach some sort of negotiated agreement, whether that's giving up their weapons, whether that's freezing their program. That's how nuclear weapons programs in the past have been thwarted, and that's how they've been abandoned. It's rare that they're abandoned simply alone through sanctions, although that's a critical part of it.
Tara Mahler, formerly a military analyst at the CIA. Thank you.